Jinwoo Kim walked slowly through the busy halls of Nexus Station. The 17-year-old human boy carried his old backpack and tried to ignore the sounds around him. Aliens from many different worlds filled the corridors. Some had blue skin, others had scales, and many had features that Jinwoo had never seen before. Coming to this place. "Look, the soft human is here again," said a tall alien with silver scales covering his body. His name was Vexstar, and he came from a planet called Cathraria. His friends laughed loudly when they saw Jinwoo walking past them, still crying about your homework like a baby. Jinwoo kept walking and did not look at them. He had learned that fighting back only made things worse. These alien students had been traveling through space for hundreds of years. Their people had built great cities among the stars, while humans were still learning to make fire. At least, that is what they always told him. The group of alien students followed behind Jinwoo as he walked toward the lower levels of the station. This part of Nexus Station was not as clean or bright as the upper floors. Here, old machines made loud noises, and the air smelled like oil and metal. Most of the important aliens never came down here. "Where are you going, human?" called out Mordok, a young prince from the hegemony worlds. His purple skin glowed softly in the dim light. "Going to find more weak creatures to help. Your kind is so foolish." Jinwoo stopped walking when he saw something that made his heart feel heavy. Near the big waste containers, an old alien woman sat on the ground. She looked very sick and tired. Her skin had once been beautiful and clear like crystal, but now it looked cracked and dull. Jinwoo could tell she was from the Zephyrin people, because of the way light moved across her features. The old woman held out a shaking hand to the aliens who walked past her. "Please," she said in broken words that Jinwoo could barely understand. "Just one small credit for food. I have not eaten in 3 days." Most aliens stepped around her quickly, as if touching her might make them sick. Some made faces of disgust. Others pointed at her and whispered mean things to their friends. The old woman's clothes were torn and dirty. She looked like she might fall over from being so weak. "You cannot be serious," Mordok said with a loud laugh when he saw Jinwoo walking toward the old woman. "You want to help that worthless thing? This is exactly why your species will never be important in the galaxy. You are too weak and too emotional." Vexstar nodded his scaled head. "Humans always waste their resources on useless creatures. My father says your people will never learn to think properly. You feel too much and think too little." But Jinwoo was not listening to their words anymore. He knelt down beside the old Zephyrin woman and opened his backpack. Inside, he had his lunch that his host family had packed for him that morning. It was not much, just some bread and fruit, but it was all he had. He also took out the small amount of credits he had been given for the week. "Here," Jinwoo said softly, placing the food and credits beside the old woman. "This should help you. Get something warm to eat." The woman looked up at him with surprise. Her eyes were very old and seemed to hold many secrets. You would give this to me, but you do not know me. I could be dangerous. I could be lying." Jinwoo smiled at her. "My grandmother always told me that when someone is hungry, it does not matter who they are, food should be shared." He noticed that the old woman was shaking from the cold air that moved through the lower levels. Without thinking, he took off his jacket and placed it gently around her shoulders. The alien students behind him made sounds of anger and disgust. "This is the most foolish thing I have ever seen," said another student, with tentacles for arms. "Humans are so stupid. No wonder they only recently learned to travel between worlds. My people conquered 12 star systems, while your species was still playing in dirt," added Vec. "And this is how you behave, giving away your possessions to strangers." The old woman pulled Jinwoo's jacket closer around herself. It was warm and smelled like the soap his host family used. "Thank you, young one," she whispered. Her voice was very quiet, but Jinwoo heard something in it that seemed important. "Your kindness, ... It will not be forgotten." Ever. What is your name? Jinwoo asked her. I am called many things by many people, she replied. But you may call me Mira. And you, kind boy? Jinwoo Kim. I am from Earth. Earth, she repeated slowly. Yes, I have heard of your world. Small, but, interesting. The group of alien students finally got bored of watching Jinwoo help the beggar. Come on, Mordok said to the others. Let the foolish human waste his time. We have better things to do than watch this pathetic display. As they walked away, their voices echoed through the corridor. Humans will never be strong enough for real space travel, one said. They care too much about worthless things, said another. Jinwoo stayed with Mira for a few more minutes, making sure she was comfortable. When he finally had to leave for his next class, she watched him go with those ancient, knowing eyes. The old woman who called herself Mira sat alone in the shadows of the maintenance area. She pulled Jinwoo's warm jacket tighter around her shoulders and closed her eyes. The boy had no idea who she really was, and that was exactly how it needed to be. Her real name was Queen Miraseth of the Zephyrin Empire. For over 300 years, she had ruled 12 star systems with absolute power. Her crystal fleets could destroy entire worlds with a single command. Billions of beings across the galaxy knew her name and feared it. But now, she sat on the cold floor like a common beggar, and nobody recognized her. 3 years ago, her own High Council had betrayed her. They had grown tired of her rule and wanted power for themselves. During a peace meeting on the neutral world of Korvax, they had secretly poisoned her with a drug that slowly destroyed her bioenhancers. These tiny machines in her body had kept her young and strong for centuries. Without them, she was aging quickly and losing her strength every day. The council thought they had killed her. They announced to the galaxy that Queen Miraseth had died in her sleep from a rare illness. They held a grand funeral with her empty coffin and divided her empire among themselves. But Mira had escaped in a small ship before the poison could finish its work. Now she looked like any old Zephyrin woman who had lived too long and had too many troubles. Her crystal skin was cracked and dull. Her hair had turned white. Her hands shook when she tried to hold things. Most days, she could barely walk without pain shooting through her legs. But there was a reason she had chosen to come to Nexus Station. This place was perfect for her plan. Here, beings from every corner of the galaxy came to trade and do business. She could watch how different species treated those who seemed weak and unimportant. She could test their true character when they thought nobody powerful was looking. For the past 2 years, she had traveled to many different worlds. On the Catherian home planet, she had pretended to be a lost tourist who needed directions. The Catherians had laughed at her and given her wrong information on purpose. They thought it was funny to watch her walk in circles for hours. On the hegemony worlds, she had asked for help when her small ship broke down. The purple-skinned officials had demanded huge payments before they would even look at her engine. When she said she had no money, they threw her in prison for 3 days for wasting official time. The void-touched people were even worse. When she collapsed from hunger outside their embassy, they simply stepped over her body and kept walking. They acted like she was not even there. Their cold black eyes showed no emotion at all. Every test had been the same. Species after species had shown her cruelty, selfishness, or complete indifference. The mighty civilizations that ruled the galaxy cared only for themselves. They had grown powerful and rich, but they had lost something important along the way. They had forgotten how to be kind. But today, something different had happened. The human boy Jinwoo had shown her something she had not seen in years. True kindness, without any reason or reward. He had given away his food and money to a stranger. He had given her his jacket, even though it meant he would be cold. He had done it simply because it was the right thing to do. Mira thought about what she knew of the human species. They were very young compared to the other races in the galaxy. Humans had only learned to travel between stars about 50 years ago. Most aliens considered them primitive and weak. They had no great empire, no powerful fleets, and no advanced technology that other species wanted. But her intelligence networks had sent her interesting reports about humans over the years. On colony worlds where humans lived alongside other species, crime rates always went down. Human doctors would treat patients for free if they could not pay. Human engineers would fix things without being asked. Human teachers would stay late to help struggling students from any species. Other aliens called this behavior foolish and weak. They said humans would never be successful because they gave away too much and asked for too little in return. But Mira was beginning to think they were wrong. Maybe the other species had forgotten something important about what it meant to be truly civilized. She touched the small communication device hidden in her torn clothes. With one signal, she could call her loyal fleet that had been searching for her across the galaxy. Admiral Catherine and her crystal ships were waiting for orders. They still believed their queen was alive somewhere, and they were ready to fight anyone who stood in their way. But Myra was not ready to reveal herself yet. She wanted to watch Jinwoo for a few more days. She wanted to see if his kindness was real, or just an act. She wanted to know if other humans would behave the same way. This test was too important to rush. The galaxy needed new leadership. The old empires had grown cruel and selfish. Maybe it was time for a younger species to show them a better way. Maybe it was time for the humans to rise. Mira smiled as she settled down to sleep in her hiding place. Tomorrow, she would continue watching and learning, and soon, she would make a decision that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. For 7 days, Queen Miraseth watched Jinwoo Kim from the shadows. She followed him quietly through the corridors of Nexus Station, hidden among the crowds of aliens and traders. What she saw during those 7 days changed everything she thought. She knew about the human species. On the second day, she watched Jinwoo help a small Trilaxian student with her mathematics homework. The little blue-skinned girl was crying because she could not understand the problems. Other students walked past her without stopping, but Jinwoo sat down beside her and spent 2 hours explaining each problem slowly and carefully. He used simple words and drew pictures to help her understand. When she finally solved a problem by herself, Jinwoo smiled like he had won a great prize. On the third day, Jinwoo shared his textbooks with 3 different classmates who could not afford to buy their own. The books were expensive, and sharing them meant Jinwoo had to study late at night when he could finally get them back. Mira saw him reading by the dim light in the lower corridors, his eyes red with tiredness. But he never complained. The 4th day was the worst for Jin. Vexstar and his group of alien friends destroyed his research project about cooperation between different species. They threw his papers on the floor and stepped on them with their boots. They poured liquid on his computer tablet and laughed as the screen went dark. "Look at your stupid human ideas," Mordok said with an evil smile. "Cooperation, peace between species. These are dreams for children and fools. My father says humans think too much with their hearts and not enough with their brains," added Vexstar. "This is why your species will always be servants to better races." Jinwoo looked at his destroyed work and said nothing. Myra expected him to get angry or fight back. Instead, he quietly picked up the pieces of paper and threw them away. Then he went to the library and started working on the project. Again from the beginning. On the 5th day, Mira watched something that made her crystal heart beat faster. A small hegemony child was being bullied by 3 older students from different species. They had taken his food and were pushing him around, calling him weak and stupid. The child was crying and begging them to stop. Jinwoo was outnumbered and smaller than the bullies, but he stepped between them and the crying child anyway. "Leave him alone," Jinwoo said in a calm voice. "He has done nothing wrong to you." The 3 bullies laughed. "What will you do, soft human? Cry at us. Your species has no claws, no natural weapons, no strength. But Jinwoo did not back down. He helped the small child stand up and gave him his own lunch. "Go find a teacher," he told the boy quietly. Then he faced the bullies again, ready to fight, even though he knew he would lose. The bullies were surprised by his courage. They had expected him to run away, like most weak beings did. After staring at him for a long moment, they decided he was not worth the trouble and walked away, making threats about what they would do next time. On the 6th day, something happened that showed Mira the true depth of human compassion. Professor Zekthal, a stern Catherian teacher who had been particularly cruel to human students, suddenly collapsed during class. His scales turned a sickly yellow color, and he could not breathe properly. While other students stepped back in fear or confusion, Jinwoo was the first to act. He ran to the professor's side and checked his breathing. He called for medical help using the emergency button. He stayed with the professor until the medical team arrived, even though this same teacher had failed him on tests and called humans inferior creatures many times. Later, when Professor Zekthal recovered, he asked who had helped him. When he learned it was Jinwoo, he stared at the human boy for a long time without speaking. On the 7th day, Mira made her decision. She waited until evening, when Jinwoo came to bring her food, as he had done every day since they first met. He sat beside her in the dim corridor and told her about his day, sharing his small problems and worries like she was an old friend. She said when he finished talking. Her voice was stronger than it had been before. "Do you know who I really am?" The boy looked at her with honest eyes. "You are Myra, someone who needed help. That is all I need to know." She smiled, but it was a different smile now. "No, young human. I am Queen Miraseth, ruler of the Zephyrin Empire, commander of 12 star systems and thousands of crystal ships." As she spoke, hidden machines under her skin began to work again. Her cracked features began to shine with their original crystal light. Her bent back straightened. Her weak hands became strong again. The transformation was slow, but amazing too. "Watch." Jinwoo's eyes grew wide, but he did not run away or bow down in fear like most beings would. "You were testing me," he said quietly. "Testing your entire species," she replied. "For 2 years, I have traveled the galaxy in disguise, watching how different races treat those they think are powerless. Every species failed the test until now." She stood up, now tall and magnificent, her crystal skin catching the light like captured stars. "You have shown me something I thought was lost forever in this galaxy. True kindness without reward. And now, young Jinwoo Kim, you and your people will inherit more power than you can imagine." The medical bay aboard the flagship Crystal's Edge glowed with bright white light as Queen Miraseth stepped out of the restoration chamber. Her body was magnificent again, tall and powerful, with crystal skin that caught the light like diamonds. The machines had repaired all the damage from 3 years of poison and aging. She looked exactly as she had when she ruled the galaxy with absolute power. Captain Catherine, her most loyal officer, bowed deeply as she entered the command center. "My queen," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "We never stopped searching for you. When we received your signal, we came as fast as our ships could travel." "How many ships did you bring?" Queen Miraseth asked as she looked out at the stars through the great window. 12 dreadnoughts, Your Majesty. The entire first battle fleet. We are ready to destroy anyone who harmed you." The Queen nodded slowly. "Good. But first, we have other business to attend to." Across Nexus Station, emergency alarms began screaming through every corridor. Red warning lights flashed as the station's sensors detected the massive Zephyrin ships appearing around them. The 12 crystal dreadnoughts were each the size of a small city, their hulls gleaming like captured starlight. Their weapons could turn the entire station into dust in seconds. Panic spread through the crowds of aliens, traitors, and students. Many species had fought wars against the Zephyrin Empire over the centuries. Everyone knew the stories of what happened when the crystal ships appeared in a system. Usually it meant someone was about to die. Station Commander Velcor, a nervous hegemony official, sent frantic messages to every embassy and government he could contact. "This is Nexus Station calling for emergency assistance." His voice cracked over the communication channels. "We are surrounded by Zephyrin warships. We do not know what they want, but we fear the worst." In his small dormitory room, Jinwoo sat quietly on his bed and stared out the window at the beautiful and terrifying ships. Other human students were crying or trying to call their families back on Earth, but Jinwoo felt strangely calm. He knew this was connected to Mira somehow. 2 hours later, every being on Nexus Station was ordered to gather in the main assembly hall. Zephyrin soldiers in crystal armor had taken control of the station without firing a single shot. They were polite, but firm. Everyone would attend the assembly, or they would be forced to attend. The Great Hall could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was completely full. Aliens from hundreds of different worlds sat in worried silence, waiting to learn their fate. In the front rows, Jinwoo could see his classmates, who had bullied him for months. Vexstar was shaking so hard his scales were rattling. Mordok had turned a sickly purple color and looked like he might faint. Professor Zekdal, the Catherian teacher who had collapsed in class, sat near the front with other faculty members. His yellow eyes kept looking around nervously, as if he was planning to run away. But there was nowhere to go. A bright light filled the center of the hall, and Queen Miraseth appeared like a vision from a dream. She was wearing her royal robes now, made from crystal threads that moved like liquid light. On her head sat the crown of stars, a magnificent piece of jewelry that was said to contain actual captured starlight. Her presence was so powerful that many beings fell to their knees automatically. Beside her stood Jinwoo, but he looked very different now. He wore ceremonial robes of white and gold, the traditional colors of honored guests in the Zephyrin Empire. A translator device hung around his neck so everyone could understand his words in their own language. "Citizens of the galaxy," Queen Miraseth's voice filled every corner of the hall without needing speakers. "I am Queen Miraseth of the Zephyrin Empire, returned from what you believed was my death." Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. Many of the older aliens remembered her from before her supposed death 3 years ago. The younger ones had heard stories about the terrible queen who could destroy worlds with a word. "For the past 3 years," she continued, "I have traveled the galaxy in disguise, testing the character of different species. I appeared as a weak and helpless beggar, asking for simple kindness from those who believed themselves superior." Her crystal eyes swept across the crowd, and many beings tried to hide behind others. The mighty Catherians showed only cruelty and laughter. The proud hegemony demanded payment for basic decency. The advanced void-touched ignored suffering completely. "Every great civilization in this galaxy failed my test." She placed her hand gently on Jinwoo's shoulder. "But this human boy, this representative of a species you all consider primitive and weak, showed me something your advanced civilizations have forgotten. He showed me compassion without reward, kindness without benefit, love without condition." Vexter made a choking sound. His silver scales had turned almost white with fear. He remembered every cruel word he had said to Jinwoo, every time he had mocked human weakness. Beside him, Mordok was quietly crying purple tears. "Therefore," Queen Miraseth announced, her voice now echoing with the power of absolute authority, "I formally declare that the Zephyrin Empire recognizes humanity as our primary ally and protector species. Earth and all human colonies are now under the protection of our crystal fleets. Humans will be granted full citizenship in our empire and all the rights that come with it." The hall erupted in chaos as the meaning of her words sank in. Humanity, the youngest and weakest species in the galaxy, had just become one of the most powerful. 5 years had passed since the day Queen Miraseth revealed herself on Nexus Station. The galaxy was a completely different place now, and Jinwoo Kim had become one of the most important humans alive. At 22 years old, he wore the blue and silver uniform of a galactic ambassador, with crystal medals on his chest that showed his high rank in the Zephyrin Empire. As he walked through the corridors of New Nexus Station, every alien he passed bowed their heads respectfully. The same beings who had once laughed at him for helping a beggar now stepped aside and waited for him to pass first. Children from different species pointed at him with wonder and whispered to their parents about the famous human who had changed everything. Ambassador Kim called a familiar voice behind him. Jinwoo turned to see Admiral Soyeon Park approaching with quick steps. She was only 24, but she commanded 3 crystal dreadnoughts and was the youngest non-Sephoran officer in the Imperial fleet. Her black hair was pulled back in the military style, and her uniform showed the gold stripes of high command. "The morning briefing is ready," she said, as they walked together toward the diplomatic center. "The Catherian delegation arrived 2 hours ago. They look very nervous." Jinwoo smiled a little. He remembered when Catherians like Vexstar had called humans weak and stupid. Now their government was begging for trade agreements and protection from their enemies. How many ships did they bring? "Just 2 small civilian transports," Soyeon replied. "No weapons, no guards. They came exactly as we requested." They entered the Grand Council chamber, where Queen Miraseth sat on her crystal throne. The room was magnificent, with walls made from transparent crystal that showed the stars outside. But what amazed most visitors was seeing human advisors sitting at the right hand of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Around the throne stood other important humans who had risen to high positions. Dr. Minsu Lee ran the Imperial Medical Corps and had saved millions of lives across 12 star systems. Engineer Hyung Park designed new crystal ships that were faster and stronger than ever before. Diplomat Nari Choi negotiated peace treaties between species that had been fighting for centuries. "Your Majesty," Jinwoo said with a respectful bow. "The Catherian delegation is waiting in Conference Room 7. They have brought the trade proposals you requested." Queen Miraseth nodded, but her expression was not kind. 5 years ago, their representatives called humans worthless. They said your species would never amount to anything important. Now they come crawling here, begging for our help, because the void touched are threatening their colonies. Through the great windows, they could see part of the human colonial fleet. 50 ships bearing the flags of Earth and the Zephyrin Empire patrolled the space around the station. Each ship was protected by crystal armor and carried weapons that could destroy entire cities. Human captains commanded most of these vessels, with Zephyrin officers serving as their advisors and teachers. The situation reports from the outer colonies are ready as well, Admiral Soyeon said, handing Jinwoo a crystal tablet. "The new human settlements in the Andros system are doing very well. The rescued prisoners from the hegemony labor camps have integrated perfectly into our communities." Jinwoo read through the reports with satisfaction. When humans had gained power through their alliance with the Zephyrin Empire, they had immediately set about freeing slaves and prisoners across the galaxy. They had built hospitals on worlds that had never seen proper medical care. They had established schools where alien children could learn alongside human teachers who actually cared about their success. "Any word from the rehabilitation centers?" Queen Miraseth asked. "Dr. Minsu reports excellent progress," Jinwoo replied. "The former slaves are learning new skills and finding purpose in their lives. Many want to join our colonial program and help build new worlds." The queen smiled with genuine warmth. This was why she had chosen humanity. Other species conquered planets to take their resources. Humans conquered hearts by showing kindness and building better lives for everyone. A soft chime announced that it was time for the morning appointments. The first group to enter the chamber made Jinwoo's heart beat a little faster. It was his old classmates from the exchange program, led by Vexstar and Mordok. But they looked very different now. Vexstar's silver scales were dull with stress, and his clothes were the simple gray uniform of a station maintenance worker. Mordok had lost his royal purple color and looked pale and sick. They had been stripped of their titles and positions after their cruel treatment of humans was exposed to the galaxy. "Your Majesty," Vexstar said in a shaking voice as he bowed, so low his head almost touched the floor. "We humbly request permission to work in the human colonies. We have learned from our mistakes, and we wish to serve honorably." Jinwoo looked at the aliens who had once made his life miserable. He could have them thrown in prison or sent to work in the mining stations. He had that power now. Instead, he stepped forward and spoke in a calm voice. "You will be given jobs in the medical centers," he said. "You will help care for sick and injured beings from all species. You will learn what it means to serve others instead of yourselves." Queen Miraseth watched with approval as mercy was shown to former enemies. This was the human way, and it was changing the galaxy one act of kindness at a time.